welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're dissecting a case that feels like a total fever dream born from the darkest corners of the Scottish internet. A story where the line between digital clout and terminal reality didn't just blur, it snapped clean in two. We're talking about Lee Sutherland. Now, if you've been anywhere near TikTok in Scotland over the last few years, you'll ken exactly who I'm talking about. The man was inescapable. He lived in a permanent state of performance, acting like he was the main character in a movie nobody else signed up for. One minute, he's your local consumer advocate, tearing into a supermarket meal deal with the intensity of a food critic at a Michelin-star restaurant. The next, he's styling himself as a road traffic law expert. He had the look, he had the high-vis gear, and most importantly, he had that unwavering, savage confidence of a man who truly believed his own hype. He didn't just post videos, he built an entire foundation of perceived authority. He dressed in the gear, he rattled off legal jargon like he'd written the books himself, and he convinced thousands of folk that he was the voice of the people, sticking it to the police and the system. But as we stand here in 2026, the silence on his channel is deafening. There are no more reviews. There are no more tips on how to dodge a speeding fine. The reality finally caught up to the fantasy on a stretch of road in Cumbernauld, and it didn't just end his career. It ended a life and shattered a family. To understand the crime, you have to understand the level of delusion here. Sutherland was what the Scottish press eventually labelled a TikTok fantasist. It's a heavy word, but it fits him like a glove. He curated this image of a man who knew every loophole in the book. He'd film from the front seat of his motor, often wearing clothing that, at a quick glance, could easily be mistaken for a uniform. He wasn't just a guy with an opinion. He was a guy who wanted you to think he had power. He'd lecture his audience on how to talk back to constables, how to challenge the calibration of speed cameras, and how to navigate the complexities of the Scottish courts. To the average viewer, he was a bit of a folk hero. To the actual legal profession, he was a walking, talking liability. He even went on podcasts like the Jim King Show to spin yarns about being mixed up with gangsters and educating himself on the law while he was doing time previously. He claimed he was so good at it that he represented himself in court and won. He sold a story of a reformed man who had mastered the system. But the irony of Lee Sutherland is that while he was busy preaching the law to the masses, he was living in total defiance of it. You see, the expert who told everyone else how to handle the road was driving a vehicle that was essentially a ticking time bomb. On June 15, 2023, the mask didn't just slip, it was torn right off. Sutherland was behind the wheel of a silver Ford Mondeo on the Cumbernauld Ring Road. At the same time, 77-year-old Margaret Allan was simply going about her day, driving her Peugeot with her 10-year-old grandson in the back. She was a grandmother, a pillar of her family, doing nothing more than a routine run, the kind of journey Sutherland claimed to know every rule for. The evidence brought forward in the High Court in Glasgow was chilling. The expert was travelling at grossly excessive speeds on a fine, sunny afternoon. But it wasn't just the speed that was the problem. The very man who lectured people on road traffic law was driving a car in a dangerous condition. The battery wasn't even secured, and more importantly, the anti-lock braking system, the ABS, was completely non-functional. Sutherland had been warned about these faults. He knew his car couldn't stop safely. But he didn't care. He just kept driving, fueled by his own ego. And here's where it gets truly galling. It was revealed in court that Sutherland was actually disqualified from driving at the time of the crash. He had been banned just 1 week prior. Think about that. The man telling you how to beat a ticket was a common criminal who shouldn't have been within 10 feet of a steering wheel, let alone doing 80 in a 60. When he slammed into Margaret Allan's car, the impact was catastrophic. But what happened next tells you everything you need to know about the man's character. Sutherland didn't rush to help. He didn't use his expert knowledge to secure the scene or aid the injured. Instead, he stopped his car a bit down the road and tried to simply walk off. When the police eventually caught up to him, he didn't offer a legal defense. He offered a cock and bull story. He told the officers that he had advertised the car for sale and that some Romanian man he couldn't identify was the one test driving it at the time of the crash. Even as Margaret Allan lay dying and a child was left injured and terrified, Sutherland's behavior was totally and utterly unacceptable. He was abusive and derogatory toward the victim at the scene, even swearing at the officers who were trying to save lives. Margaret Allan survived for nearly a month, fighting in a hospital bed before she finally passed away in July 2023. Through the entire judicial process, the savage TikToker showed what the judge described as a total lack of empathy. Even while out on bail and later on remand, he continued to post videos on the internet about the incident. He was treating the death of a grandmother as content for his feed, still trying to play the victim of a system he claimed to understand better than anyone. When the trial finally concluded and sentencing happened in January 2026, Judge Hughes didn't see a folk hero. She saw a man whose catastrophic decisions caused unimaginable pain. She noted that while he tried to blame his actions on being on the autistic spectrum, his behavior after the crash, the lying, the walking away, the online videos, showed a complete and utter lack of remorse. He was sentenced to 9 years in prison, backdated to September 2025. He was also slapped with a driving ban of 13.5 years. The man who made his name talking about the road is now legally barred from it until the late 2030s. This is the cost of the Fantasist lifestyle. Lee Sutherland built a foundation of lies, and he expected the world to treat those lies as truth. But the laws of physics and the laws of the land don't care about your digital persona. In the end, he wasn't a lawyer, he wasn't a cop, and he wasn't an expert. He was just a man in a broken car, driving too fast, who thought he was too smart to get caught. He has 9 years now to sit in a cell and think about the advice he gave. He has 9 years to think about Margaret Allan and the family he destroyed. And for everyone else watching, the lesson is clear. The internet is a stage, but the consequences of your actions are very, very real. Don't build your life on a foundation of clout, because when it collapses, it takes more than just your account down with it. Stay safe out there, and for God's sake, don't let a fantasist be your guide.